Hey, Jamie, what's going on?
Hey, Rich, thanks for having me on.
Of course. Yeah, I'm excited to just dive in, talk about your race a little bit. I know it wasn't the race that you were hoping to have, and you made a post about it that you weren't exactly happy with how everything went, but you have a good spirit about these things where it's like, well, what else can we do but work harder to improve so next time it's better off. So you finished 13th, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How you feeling now? How you feeling about the race in general?
Um, After a few days, I have realized that by mid-July to late July in 2019, I had already done, I think, 3 races or 4 races at that point. And this year in mid-July, I had done 1 race, and in late July for this Asheville race, that was only the 3rd race that I'd done. So I'd only done 2 previous races since February 2020. And I think that just showed. I think that, getting a few days in and getting more perspective on it was the major conclusion I came to.
What led you to that? Like, what were things that you felt were like maybe more stagnant or less sharp? Like, what was it that felt like, oh, there's some rust around?
I think I just need more obstacle practice, and you really only get that in a race. And also the feeling of racing and doing obstacles and then running again after having done a number of obstacles or burpees, and dealing with that different kind of fatigue while you're running and then preparing to do more obstacles. I think I just got a little out of practice on that. And I think with, more races that I do and more consistency leading into the end of the season and into next season, I think hopefully that will start to get things back to where they were in 2019.
Yeah, it's like a race. That sharpness, it does, and with OCR in particular, it's real. Like knowing what that's supposed to feel like and going through it. I feel that way in like I always feel that way in like a 5K. I don't know if you ever felt this way, like the sharpness piece, like the familiarity of how it feels is just different than fitness to me.
Right.
So because your fitness seems pretty solid, right? You're feeling pretty good about your fitness piece?
I like to think it's there.
Yeah. I mean, you've had some good trail type races, and I mean, you've been doing it long enough that you would, I'm sure you have subjective measures and objective measures as well to point that you are in pretty solid fitness. So you went out in the race, you did stick your nose in it, right? You were right in top 10, top 6, 7, 8 at some point.
Yeah, I think somewhere around the first 3 or so miles, I was probably hovering in that area, and then just obstacle failure and just kind of remembering what that feels like doing burpees and getting on even some of the ones that I didn't fail, I spent a lot of time on, and so I used up a lot of energy on them just to make it through them, whereas in other races and maybe other years or even earlier this year, that wouldn't have been such an issue.
What was that, like an Olympus or something where were you like hanging on, or?
No, I actually failed Olympus. The biggest thing that I think I spent the most time and energy on was the multi-rig.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get like caught, or what happened?
It wasn't a particularly difficult one. It was just rings and then a horizontal bar and then more rings. But everything was a little bit slippery because everything was slightly wet. But everything was wet in Montana too, and it didn't seem as difficult. But I whiffed on getting my arm up to that horizontal bar. I just misjudged how high it was. And so I came back and put that arm or that hand back on the ring that I was swinging from. And then I started twisting on the ring. So I'm just like spinning around on it. And I was like, well, okay, it's fine. I'll just take another swing and, it'll be there. I'll finish spinning and be lined up with it. And so then I was able to get my arm or my hand on that horizontal bar, and then I just went up to my armpits and slid across it. And then, yeah, I just didn't have much confidence in my grip at that point. So I put 2 hands on each of the rings coming off of that bar. And also I was like, man, I worked so hard to get this far. I'm not going to screw up the obstacle now.
Has that happened to you before? I've never been stranded that way. I mean, it sounds like you recovered fairly well. But usually if I'm failing an obstacle, it's that like my strength or something wasn't there and there's not like a hang on, where like that was. Do you find yourself in that position sometimes where you're just like, oh boy, or even you mentioned getting your armpits up. Do you ever utilize like the chicken wing on things like rings or even like the monkey bars where you can kind of pull yourself up and like hang there for a little bit and then move across to the next one?
The only other time that I can recall doing that was in Big Bear in 2019. At the multi-rig was at the end, and it was on multi-rig that I did it, and I put my armpit inside of every ring, the horizontal bar, and then I just used my hands on the ropes because it was so late in the race and I was so tired already that I just wanted to give myself the best chance to succeed. But I've not done that on monkey bars, like take a break or something, I'm guessing.
I'm actually not sure how that chicken wing works on the monkey bars. I've seen people do it, but I can't wrap my head around that reach. Maybe, I don't know if it would work for someone like you. I don't know if like you would be able to be this. I mean, maybe if you're that high, but then how do you come off of that? Like,
I mean, when I do monkey bars, it's like my entire wingspan to get to some of those rungs. So I don't know. But I could see it as like, my hands are tired. I need to shake them out. I'm going to go up to my armpits, do that, and then I can finish it. I've not done that, but I could see how it might be helpful.
I think it's more like elbow pits.
Or elbow, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that what because when you did that on the horizontal bar, did you get like your whole arm across?
Yeah.
So was it?
I went all the way up to my armpit.
Huh. That probably does that feel pretty secure? Does that feel okay?
It's very secure. Sometimes I'll get bruises the next day, but
I bet. Because
it's not
the
a big
chicken
deal.
The chicken wing feels less secure to me. Seems like
I could see that.
It could be like a little bit scary.
Because if you straighten your
almost.
arm, you're still gonna fall off.
Right.
But your armpit, I mean, you could. Well, you would have to put your arm above your head to fall off, but like that's almost a relaxed position.
It'd have to be on the transition, right?
Yeah.
To fail once you get there. That's an interesting way to go about it. So, and like you said, when you did it at Big Bear, you were able to do it, and the ropes are probably the hardest part, right? Mm-hmm. You're able to kind of save it until you got to the ropes and you got through it okay.
Right. And it's a slow way to get across, but if it's across slowly or don't make it, then I think it's
at the end of a beast, right? You're probably by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Kind of. I think I was fighting with Alyssa at that point, but
did you beat her?
No, she got me.
No. Yeah, she's probably strong going through.
Oh yeah.
What else did you end up failing?
So the first thing I failed was the Olympus along with probably half
a lot
the field.
Of people. Were you in that like 6th, 7th, 8th position at Olympus?
Maybe. I saw Alex miss the bell, but I was early on it when I saw her miss the bell. Miranda and I came into that obstacle together. And then when I went on the penalty loop, I caught up with Natalie, and then Alex was right behind me. So the three of us.
Did Miranda make it through?
I don't know. I don't know who else made it or didn't. Because I think there were a number of us who were on it at the same time, almost like in Utah. But yeah, I only really saw Natalie and Alex, and then as we were coming out of the penalty loop, we caught up with Ashley Heller.
I think Ashley and Annie were the only 2 out of like the top 10 who didn't miss.
Oh wow!
I think Emma actually got through it. She missed a bunch later, but I think she did. There was very few athletes who got through Olympus on the female side. I wasn't sure if Miranda wasn't sure about it. I couldn't tell how her race went.
It was exceptionally slippery on that. It was wet, but then, and this goes for almost all the obstacles where you put your feet on them, they were wet, but then because the guys had gone through first, they were also muddy.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we were adding more mud too.
You get the raw end of the deal on that for an obstacle like that on a course like that. It'll be like that at West Virginia too. What do you think you could do for that scenario on that obstacle? So like, do you think it's just a strength thing, or what do you think? How do you think you can get through it?
Yeah, I think, when I started seeing a bunch of people miss, this is not an approach that I would suggest for anyone, but in my head, I was kind of thinking, a lot of people are missing this. I'm not feeling terribly confident on it. I don't want to get to the end and miss like Alex.
Mm-hmm.
So I put my left hand, which is my less strong hand, on the chain, felt that it was really slippery. And instead of really fighting, I was kind of just like, maybe I should just pop off and be, especially because it was a penalty loop. I was like, running is generally my strength in these races. Maybe that's the move. Thinking back on it now, it might have been better to just go for the holes. If you have a long enough reach, I think you can do that hand over hand motion, hold a hole. I haven't tried it. I don't know that I have that reach, but my hands are small enough that I can put two hands in a hole and not get stuck.
That's true.
So I think if I did something like that and maybe tried to get one foot up on the boards with like my right foot up and my left knee, I lead with my right side to give you a better visual. So having my lead leg up and my trailing leg, the knee on the boards, might have worked.
Yeah, if you got holes through.
Mm-hmm.
So Logan was saying the way he kind of goes through it is he's able to use momentum by crossing his arm over and then allowing his body to swing and then transferring his hand to the next one and then just like repeating. So he's actually kind of like swinging through it over and over, just like, but like kind of scraping his knees as he goes through it.
Sure.
And I was like, that seems like it makes sense. Do you think from a strength position, do you think that you'd be able to hold on while swinging through with like, because you'd have one hand right across your body as you're swinging, and then you have to like release to grab the next one. I mean, you have to be pretty accurate.
Yeah. And I mean, the swing is going to make it harder to hold on because you're getting that extra pull down, but you're also using the momentum. So you're actually using less strength. Like if you think about gymnastics and the bars, you're swinging through, you don't have to grip it as much. And in fact, you shouldn't grip it as much if you're swinging.
Yeah. And I think that, and like Logan was like, yeah, you go through it faster. And he's like, and it seems a little bit safer to me. And I don't think that would work as well for an Olympus like Utah, just because that was up and it was dry. Right. But on a wet one where you might be able to kind of like, where your knees might be able to kind of go across it a little bit easier, as opposed to getting scraped up or getting like stuck. It might work. It'd be hard to practice something like that, but
yeah, I understand why they don't, but it's too bad that we don't have the open houses this year. I think that was really useful.
Right. I just worry about Olympus, like how bad like knees will get scraped up just practicing it.
Yeah,
I've had my knees ruined on the wood one though. The wood one was really nasty. The plastic one, you still get banged up a little bit, but it doesn't seem to be as rough. So after missing that, I mean, a lot of people did miss that one. So you're still in the hunt, right? And with all
absolutely.
All the women you mentioned too, like finished fairly. I mean, Alex finished on the podium, right? So coming out of that, it seems like you were still kind of with a pack of people. Then what was the next obstacle? Was it beater? The next failable obstacle?
I think that was pretty soon. We got, I just realized the map that I pulled up is from 2018. That is not helpful.
Not going to do it.
Off memory. Yeah, I think Beater was pretty soon. Like, we had a little bit of running, and then we had this water crossing. It was really pretty. It was a little waterfall, and
yeah.
And then, maybe some smaller obstacles, walls and stuff. And then I think Beater was pretty soon, which I failed that.
How far did you get through that?
About halfway. I got to the first rotating part, I think, and then I was going for the second rotating part, and I didn't swing hard enough, so it was short. And then, I just sort of slipped off. But again, it was like 10 girls in the burpee pit. Maybe not that many, but at least 5 of us. Because I burpeed, so Casey was just coming out, and I burpeed with Faye Morgan joined me right after I came through. Miranda was in there. Emma was in there.
Did you see what happened to her? How, like, she jumped up and grabbed it. And was like, oh, no. I was like, I don't like the way it, and just went back to this stool. And like, I can't do that. So that's a tough way to fail. But your first race, it's gonna happen.
Oh, sure. It's all learning experience. And I mean, Spartan definitely puts the rules responsibility on the athlete. You know, they publish the PDF and they say, here are the rules, you need to read them, and they don't explain them to you any further. You just have to read the PDF. And so you know, and if it's your first race and you're reading about 20, 30 obstacles, you're not going to remember everything, I'm sure.
No. And it's like, you know, it's that little nuance of thing is also forgettable, right? Like, like once you start the obstacle, like she was probably like, oh, I didn't start, you know, even though like, you know, Spartan thinks she was like, oh, wait, it wasn't like trying to bend the rules, just like didn't realize. Okay, so another set of burpees there. And then, and when you get back into the race, are you still with the whole group pretty much? Or are you solo at all at this point? Because what's the next part is the monkey bars and the carries. I believe.
Yeah, I came out of that burpee pit with Faye. I think she's the only person who's ever out burpeed me.
She can do burpees. Yeah. Because you guys are about the same height, right? Yeah. So you lose that advantage.
You might have maybe an inch on me, but we're both short. And Natalie came through. We were just finishing up when she came through into the burpee pit too. So there were a ton of us in there. But when I left, Faye had left and I had maybe 2 more burpees left. And then I followed her out. I think there was somebody close behind me, but I'm blanking on who it was. So to answer your question, I was not alone. And then we got into the Herc hoist, and I can't remember if I got there before Faye. I think maybe a little bit, but that's one of my worst obstacles, and it's one of, well, I don't know if it's one of her best, but it's one that she's very good at. And
that's what she got you at Utah, right?
Yep.
Huh. What does she do different than you want? Is it just upper body strength, you think?
Yeah, maybe. You know, I was trying to watch what she was doing at Utah, and it's like she grabs it and pulls her whole body down to the ground, like she's laying on the ground. And I was like, okay, I need to do that. And I definitely think it was one of my better Herc hoists, maybe my best Herc hoist ever, but it's just, I weigh 104 pounds and I'm 5 foot nothing. So I think it is just one of those obstacles that is not suited to someone of my stature as much as it is to other people.
Totally.
But I got crawl tubes, so.
True. But there were no crawl tubes at this one.
No.
Yeah, because that's the thing. And when you come up with, were you putting 1 foot up on the gate?
Yeah.
Just one? Yeah. Because
I don't think you're allowed to take both feet off the ground.
I think you can now.
Oh, you can now. Okay.
I think you can, but I don't think it's an advantage.
Talking about reading the rules.
They change. That's the thing. Is that like we think we have them, and the next year they're just different, or they'll like tell you on the fly. It's like, yeah, just don't drop the bag or something, like do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
But because this was like you and Logan have similar skill sets in turn and like pitfalls in terms of your ability on the course when it comes to your size. So that's where he actually lost the race. Like he was in like the chase pack there, and the Hercules was just too slow, and then he just was in no man's land. But he was getting 2 feet up onto the thing, and the bag goes down though, you know. Like as he would go up, the bag would go down. But if you have one leg on the ground and one leg,
experienced that.
Yeah, it's gonna be super frustrating.
More than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just like floating there. So one leg up makes sense though, because then you can kind of get back up, and you won't lose the position of the bag as much.
Mm-hmm.
You'd think. Okay, and then you did miss monkey bars, right?
Yes. Yeah. Was that next, or roughly next?
I think that was the next failable one. Because then it was that, and then it went into like the carry section where it was like sandbag, then into bucket, and then into like the big hill. Yeah,
and I don't know how many people relative to other obstacles miss monkey bars, but I feel like there were still a number of girls who missed that one.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yeah, and I didn't get super far on that, just a couple rungs in. And then the carries, I felt pretty good on the sandbag carry. I was following another girl, and I moved pretty well. It was a downhill and then an uphill, and I moved pretty well downhill, and I was really excited, and I was gaining on her, which, carries are not my strong suit. So I was really excited about that. And then I went to turn the corner to go up the hill, and I slipped on this really big leaf or mud or something, and I fell all the way down.
Oh no. And, oh my God.
Yeah. I didn't drop the bag though, so at least I didn't have to repick that up. But
just stand up and start moving again.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's brutal.
Yeah, so then after that happened, she kept climbing and opened up that distance more, because it took me a second to be able to stand up. But then I was catching her on the next run, but then it was right into the bucket carry, and it was a heavier and longer bucket carry than has been recent, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So that was tough for me, and not only did she put distance on me, but another girl passed me during that. So that wasn't good.
Yeah. I heard that bucket carry was pretty brutal.
It was tough. It was like a little bit hilly, but not, they were little hills. And it was just somewhat long, and it felt more difficult than they have been feeling this year.
And you're 90 burpees deep at this point. So energy has been expended, or no, 60 on a penalty loop.
Yeah.
60 on penalty loop.
60 burpees and hanging out on multi-rig for half an hour.
Right. So, okay. So you lost a little bit of ground there. Did you gain any back on the climb? How are you, where's your mind at this point? How are you feeling?
Feeling kind of frustrated. And it was the first time in a long time that I was in a race and I didn't know the women who were passing me. I don't know, they could be fantastic racers, but because I didn't know who they were, and the moment in my mind, I'm like, oh geez, who are these people? Why are they passing me? This isn't okay.
It's like, what place am I in? Like,
yeah,
where
exactly.
Is it? Like, yeah, it's like, am I in the 20s?
You know? Yeah, and I was just like, oh man, am I really blowing this?
Yeah.
But also, I was kind of just like, well, got to focus on where I am now. And, and I could see the girl who passed me on the bucket carry was not very far ahead. I made up distance. I closed that gap pretty quickly during the run, and then I passed her. And then I could see the next girl. Actually, I did look up her name. I think it was Rachel Waters.
Oh, yeah.
That's how you pronounce it?
Yeah, with W-A-T-T-E-R. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she did beat me in West Virginia in 2019.
She's good. She she's a lot of experience in obstacle racing. She does well in like she's been doing well in like the Savage circuit this year, and she's from that like southeast area. So I think she spends most of her time in that region. So you might not see her a lot.
Okay. Yeah. I was just glad to see it was someone who wasn't out for their first race.
Right. They had an athlete's profile.
I'm gonna try it.
Right. No, you're good. And then is this at like that last mile gauntlet then? Because I think that started at Atlas. Right?
Yeah. Oh, that was tough. I don't know what happened, but I had such a hard time picking up that Atlas stone. It took me like 3 or 4 tries to get it. And my husband was there, and my parents actually, they live on the East Coast, so they came out to see me race, which was really cool.
Nice.
So my dad and my husband were there, and they're like, "Jane, pick it up." And I'm like, I know how to do this. I don't know why it's not happening.
Thank you for the instruction. I did read the rule book, but I'm trying to pick this thing up.
Oh no, I mean, they were just being encouraging.
I know.
But, and I was thinking, I was like, why can't I pick this up? I've never had such a hard time with it before. So I don't know if they were a little heavier, if it was in the sand, or if I was just spent by that point. But that was a big struggle, which was unexpected. But eventually I did get it off the ground, and I was like squatted down. I was like, well, I got it off the ground. I'm not dropping it. Just get around that flag and run back.
Jeez. Yeah. Once it's up, it's up. Did you lose ground? Did people pass you there?
No, nobody passed me there. I'm sure Rachel opened up on me, but then we ran some. Oh, actually, yeah, there were girls coming behind me. I was in 10th at that point. No, I wasn't. I was in 11 or 12 at that point. Because, no, I must have been 12. Because I'm coming through there, and my husband was like, hey, 11 and 10 are just a little bit ahead of you. You can easily catch them. So that breathed some life into my race, and I was super excited about that. And we were getting down to the end of it. I think it was the rolling mud. I got stuck in the mud.
Really?
Yeah. It was funny. I jumped in. I felt really good about my jump. And then suddenly I couldn't pick my feet up. I was like, oh man, I'm stuck.
They had a double barbed wire crawl there as well. So you must have been excited to see that, right? You went under, then it was rolling mud, then had to do it again.
Yeah. Oh, and the rope carry, wow, we're both struggling.
Yeah.
The rope climb. So that was right before that, I think, because I knew that I was just a little out of 10th, and that 10th was still a possibility. So I kind of got this second wind, and, and I kept telling myself, because I was feeling really, really tired on like mile 4 to mile 5 of that race, or 4.5 to 5.5, something like that. And I was just thinking like, hey, you never know what's going to happen, and you never know, you might start feeling better. And I did. And I was super excited about it. I was like, all right, let's go. And then I did the rope climb, and the rope just took it out of me, which is funny because it's not a big obstacle. It's a pretty fast one. But yeah, I came out of the rope and I felt more tired. And then it was the barbed wire and the rolling mud. And so with all of that, I think those girls were catching up behind me. Those girls ahead of me were pulling away a bit. And then it was the A-frame cargo, and then the vertical cargo, and I could see 2 girls behind me were on vertical cargo while I was on vertical cargo. So I was like, oh boy. And one of those girls was Emmy, so I did know her.
Mm-hmm.
And then there might have been another obstacle or something, but pretty soon after that was the spear throw. And I missed.
That was the 4th. Shoot.
Mm-hmm. I think I stepped on my rope.
That's the worst. Because if it's like a good throw, you're like, yeah. Uh-huh. And then it just goes flat to the ground. That's the worst.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I felt really good about my throw, and I watched it, and it was a great trajectory. And then just like your arm motioned, it just went straight down. And I was like, oh, what? I'm not good at physics, but I don't think that's normal.
Yeah, that is just kind of how it works with that. Did the girls behind you hit?
At least one of them did. I think Emmy hit, and she passed me. But then I didn't give up any other positions, but I didn't gain any. I think a lot of girls doing burpees were really tired at that point.
Yeah.
When I was too. And then helix and then ran it in for the finish.
I liked the way that finish was set up. That'd be good for you because you have like good turnover, right? And like among most of the women in the field, like you'd stack up pretty well if it was like a flat 400. I bet.
Yeah, I think it was different than usual. It was nice to have, if there was somebody in the vicinity of me finishing that up, it would have been fun to race them.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd been really cool. I hope that they make that. Probably not. They probably didn't even have the intent of this. It was probably just how things like logistically worked for them. But like, I hope that's something that they do add to have like a running component piece so people could really empty out the tank at the last minute. And because like if it's the like A-frame or vertical car or whatever they end like wanting last or the slip wall sometimes it's just like anticlimactic. It's slow.
Yeah,
it's like you kind of get your energy back during those a little bit. Like you finish the race and you're like, But if it's like a sprint finish every time, that'd be really cool. I hope that's something they put in. Well, like you said, it's a learning experience. Just trying to get that, like, bust that rust and learning what you need to do to kind of go forward. So what do you think you need to do? What are you going to do from here?
Well, like I briefly mentioned, I think I really just need that obstacle practice, which can only happen in races. So I've got West Virginia next, and maybe by that point I will have had enough practice on obstacles by then. Or, if this year just doesn't quite pan out how I was hoping, like I'm still improving, I'm still learning, be ready for a great year next year. I think another big thing that's contributing to my performance overall is just, and this is probably true for a lot of people, but just the background stress of this year. It's been wearing on me for a long time. Just the pandemic is scary. And it was like just when we were coming out of it almost and things were looking up. And now we're right back into another big wave with, what seems like no end in sight and just more cases and more deaths every day. And it's really, I don't know, I'm sure it is for a lot of, probably everybody to see it. It's so devastating. So when I look at that, it just wears very heavily on me. And the divisiveness of our country is very difficult for me to sort of put in a box and think about just a little bit, but for me it's constantly there. And and just all of the social unrest that we've had over the past year, it's been tough. And I think in the race I'm not thinking about these things. And that's one of the great things about sport is that it brings people together. We've got so many people from different walks of life, different backgrounds, different beliefs, But we come to the race and we're all high-fiving and hugging each other and we're excited to see each other, and those things don't matter. We're just there to support each other, and that's a big reason why I do sports. And I think Spartan Race is great for that atmosphere. It's better than any of the road races I've been at in terms of encouragement and support from competitors. And I really love that. But, just having that constantly seeping into my thoughts, like, it keeps me up at night and it creeps into my focus during the day. And, again, I'm sure I'm not alone in this, but, that just wears on me every day. And then I'm not recovering as well. I'm not as productive at work, which brings on more stress.
Right. Right.
But yeah, I think some of that's just starting to wear on me. And of course, like I said, it's not something that's directly related to a race, but overall, I think it is having some
stress
effect
is
on my
stress.
training.
Yeah. You need to recover from stress, and there's like a tipping point for it, right? So it doesn't really matter if it's your run or your race that tips you over, or if it's the constant wear down. And yeah, it's that, like, with all those things, and like you said, and just the way it does kind of seep in, that's the type of stress for me anyway, that just feels like you don't know it's there. Almost, it just becomes like part of your like the way I operate, and that's like even that's like harder, like the hardest to deal with. It's like insidious, like you don't even know it's there. It's just like weighing you down. Yeah. So hope, and usually we have sports to help us pull it out. So yeah, I don't know.
I think a way to help mitigate that, which I'm just not good at this, but if anybody else is dealing with that, and hopefully they're better at this than me, is to just recognize that there are only a finite number of things that you can do to change things. And once you do them, it's out of your control, and you just have to let whatever is going to happen, because there's nothing you can do about it. And, I have at least gotten to the point where I recognize it. I'm still working on being able to fully convince myself, like, hey, just relax, you can't change it.
I know. I've actually started to like tune out some of the information that I would consistently bring in. And that's, it's not saying it's like the right answer, it's like the right thing to do, but it's like definitely helped me, like not like, cause I would always start my day with like a podcast or some like news outlet. And I've stopped and it's like, it's felt nice. Cause now when I do like engage in those type of conversations or those thoughts, like I now feel it come back and I'm like, oh no.
Oh, well, sorry for that.
No, not like this. Like, not like that's, we're not like in that same type of conversation, but you know what I mean? When you're thinking about like forming opinions on it, like what are we going to do type of things, and like having these like longer drawn out thoughts, not just like the thought of it. I mean, it's always going to be here, but yeah, it's been helpful not to have to inundate myself with what I think is useful information. And I don't find it helpful in my life. But that's just me.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, cool, Jamie. Well, I'm glad you're going to be doing West Virginia. And then are you thinking Tahoe after that? You are, right?
Yeah, I'll do Tahoe.
Yeah, cool. So you got the rest of the series to play out. So a couple more chances to get after it, which I'm excited about. So the like finishing at or around 12th thing is like funny because how often it happens, but like no more jokes about it. Only above it now. Cool, Jamie. Well, I appreciate you taking the time.
Sure. Thank you.